Hello everyone and welcome to Cehtra Media. I'm Cehtra, Business Development Manager at Cehtra, and in this episode we have the pleasure to have with us Sandra MARTINEZ BOSCH from our bioscience team. Sandra is based at our Madrid offices, and in this episode she will be answering some of our questions about the QuAC consortium, an umbrella consortium from Cehtra to cover all quaternary ammonium compounds and disinfectants PT combinations. Thank you, Sandra, for joining us.
Hello, Faizan, and thank you for inviting me.
So, Sandra, here is my first question for you. At the end of 2021, the Biocidal Products Committee adopted the opinion on approval of active substances diethyl dimethyl ammonium chloride, also known as DDAC, and alkyl C1216 dimethyl benzyl ammonium chloride, also known as ADBAC or BKC for PT1 and PT2. Could you please explain us what it means for those companies that use DDAC and BKC in surface disinfectants or products used for human hygiene, for instance?
Basically, they will be impacted by BPR, meaning that they need to switch from rules that are set at member state levels to new rules set by BPR, which is a European harmonized regulation. The approval date of the active substances used in a biocidal product sets the deadline for the BPR dossier submission of that biocidal product or biocidal product family. It's mandatory to submit the BPR dossier to be able to keep your products on the market.
And how long does it take from the BPC opinion until the approval date of the active substance?
From our experience, it takes about 2 years, but it could be more depending on the situation. For DDAC and BKC, the approval dates for PT1 and PT2 are expected during 2024.
How should they get ready then for this?
Well, BPR was set to harmonize the requirements to place biocidal products in the European market, but those requirements are much more complex than the ones we usually face at the member state level. So, the time frame for the preparation of dossiers and performing required studies can be very time-consuming, and we recommend to start with dossier preparation for biocidal product or biocidal product families as soon as possible.
If BPR introduces complexity in requirements, I assume it will also increase the costs, right?
Yes, the costs are pretty high in terms of studies to be performed and also resources for the preparation of the dossiers, including not only the regulatory part, but the research and development phase that you need to do to have a BPR compliant formulation.
And how can the QuAC consortium from Cehtra help companies with the regulatory and economic burden that they will have to face?
Well, QuAC stands for Quaternary Ammonium Compounds Consortium and is an umbrella consortium that has the main objective to help companies save time, resources and cost when dealing with BPR. At Cehtra, we have experts with many years of experience in the industry, and we are in constant communication with companies, so we have knowledge of their needs and business priorities. On the other hand, we also have extensive knowledge on BPR and specifically on the new concept of biocidal product families. Therefore, over the past months, we've been working to balance both industry needs and regulatory knowledge and experience to define the best strategy for the QuAC consortium.
Could you give us some details on the QuAC consortium strategy?
Sure. Usually, a consortium is designed to fit into the concept of biocidal product family. If we check what BPR says about the criteria to have a family, all the products within the family must fulfill similarity criteria based on 4 main points: similar uses, the same active substances, similar composition with specified variations, and similar level of risk and efficacy. The concept of a consortium that we all know is a group of companies that submit a common dossier including all their formulations and sharing the cost. Usually, the consortium decides the regulatory strategy and is the holder of the dossier, meaning that each company gets their own authorization afterwards via same biocidal product procedure, right? The concept of biocidal product family has evolved in the past years. We now have several guidances that go deeper in the definition and introduce additional criteria and restrictions that make it more difficult to build a biocidal product family, especially when trying to group products from different companies. The solution is basically simplify formulations and make them more and more alike and more similar, right? On the other hand, companies prioritize making their products unique with specific performance characteristics that will make them stand out at market level. So, in order to consider both industry needs and regulatory limitations, we've designed a consortium where companies will have their own BPR dossier but will still be able to get a cost saving by sharing the risk assessment package.
What is the risk assessment package?
A BPR dossier has several parts, and one of the most important ones, I would say the core of the dossier, is the risk assessment, where you have to prove that your biocidal product or your family is safe for human health and the environment. The risk assessment is complex and time-consuming, so it's also one of the most expensive parts in a BPR dossier. Companies within the QuAC consortium will have the same active substances, DTAC and VKC, and similar uses, so it will be easy to have the same combination of active substance, product type, and use, meaning that the risk assessment can be optimized from our side, and the cost of this part decreased. Still, companies will have total control on their dossier regulatory strategy, where they will submit the dossier and how, and will be the only holders of the dossier. The dossier is not submitting within the consortium umbrella, but at company level. So, more than a consortium, we could be speaking about an interest group, as the conversations and agreements will not be as complex, considering that no confidential information is shared between competitors.
Well, it sounds pretty reasonable. Thank you, Sandra, for your time and for answering our questions.
Thank you, Faisal.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us for this podcast. If you would like to know more about the QuAC Consortium, do visit www.cehtra.com/QuAC. And if you have any specific queries related to the QuAC Consortium, you can send them to sandra.martinez.bosch@cehtra.com. Thank you once again for listening to Cehtra Media. It's time to say goodbye, but we'll be back soon with another interesting podcast.